Welcome to Vegas Hockey Hub, live in the sports entertainment capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada, here on PRConnectionsRadio.com, the voice of new media. I'm your host, Ian Rachiele. Episode 1, looking back at the 2017 NHL expansion draft, has been uploaded to all major platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Reddit, whatever you want to name it, whatever platform it would need to be on. First episode of Vegas Hockey Hub is on all major networks. Definitely go back and check out that show. Fantastic show talking about the 2017 NHL expansion draft, looking back at it 5 years later. But that video gave me an idea. I noticed a pattern when looking back at the 2017 NHL expansion draft. I noticed a certain similarity, certain formality that came popping up time and time and time again when it came to the 2017 NHL expansion draft. And it was how many players either was drafted from the KHL, was scouted from the KHL, or eventually moved on and became a player in the KHL. Now, for people who don't know hockey, or for anyone who's a casual fan and doesn't really understand what the KHL is, I will give you a brief description on what the KHL is. Give you a brief description on what it is exactly. So the KHL is the Continental Hockey League, the KHL. It is a Eastern European hockey league. It is mainly in Russia. However, it does have other countries involved. You've had countries from Finland, from Belarus, from Ukraine. You've had other countries be involved with the KHL, but majority of the teams come from Russia. KHL, it has been around for over a decade now and has really become a second tier professional hockey league. The NHL is always going to be the top tier. The NHL is always going to be the best of the best. NHL is where you see the best players in the world competing at a major level. However, the KHL has been where the second level is. And my argument for this show tonight and my thesis for tonight's show is that the KHL is the best farm system for the NHL. That the KHL is where the NHL goes to find great talent from overseas. That if you are a fantastic hockey player in Europe, if you're playing in the KHL, the NHL will find you. And not only will the NHL find you, but they will use you as an example and they will draft you, they will sign you, they will trade for you, and they will make you a household name here in the NHL. And I'm going to tell you later in the show how the Vegas Golden Knights fall into this. But let's just start out with the basic idea. Because the basic idea is that the Continental Hockey League, a league that once again has 22 teams involved in it, a team that like the CSKA Moscow, who has been one of the most notorious best teams in the KHL. This is an organization and this is a league that really was founded in the mid 2000s and has gained steam ever since. This has been an organization that over the last dozen years has really taken off as an organization as a whole when it comes to leagues. Now, one point that I'm going to say, and one thing that I have to point out when it comes to the KHL is the amount of young talent that has joined the NHL. Amount of young talent that ever since the KHL was founded has made their way to the NHL. The first one that really made a huge impact was Alexander Radulov. Now, Radulov, he played for Russia. He played for the KHL. He was a huge star in Russia. Okay, this was a player who he played his junior career. He played in the CHL, but He goes to the Nashville Predators. He signs a 3-year deal with them, has a interesting tenure, goes back to the KHL, wins multiple championships there, and then signs in with back with the Montreal Canadiens, signs a massive deal, about $5 million, to go from Russia back to the NHL, plays for the Montreal Canadiens, has a scoring role that really should have been rewarded. But unfortunately, the Montreal Canadiens moved on. He signs a handsome 5-year deal with the Dallas Stars, and he actually was part of the 2020 Stanley Cup run with the Dallas Stars. So Alexander Radulov was an example of somebody who played for the Dynamo Moscow, who once again is a team in the KHL, the Dynamo Moscow. He plays for them. He goes to the NHL. He goes to North America. He plays in the NHL, puts up solid numbers, and then goes back to the KHL, makes some fantastic remarks, and then he gets a second chance in the NHL and he hits right away. Someone else that also made a statement in the KHL was Ilya Kovalchuk. Now, Ilya Kovalchuk was a situation where, once again, he was founded in Russia. He was founded as a junior for the Spartak Moscow. Okay, this was a guy who put up, great statistics in his junior career in Russia. He gets signed as a top draft pick by Atlanta. He plays multiple years in the NHL, plays for New Jersey, plays for Atlanta, has a spectacular career, but it wouldn't have been achievable if he hadn't been founded in Russia, if he hadn't been founded playing for Moscow in the KHL. Okay, he plays for the NHL for a solid decade, goes back to the KHL, plays for St. Petersburg. He had a 78-point year. He had even an 80-point year at one point, and then he returns back to the NHL, plays 2 seasons for the LA Kings, and then ended his career on a graceful note. But Alexander Radulov was a guy. You had someone, for example, like Ilya Kovalchuk. He was a good name. And there was also 2 players that the Vegas Golden Knights have a personal relationship with. One of them was a positive, the other one was a negative. The positive was Nikita Gusev. Now, this guy's nicknamed Goose, Nikita Gusev. He played for the KHL. As a matter of fact, that's how he got his name out there. As for 11 years playing for Moscow and playing for St. Petersburg, Nikita Gusev at one point had a 71-point season. This was a guy getting 20-plus goals a year playing in the KHL. He gets drafted by the Tampa Bay Lightning. They trade him to the Vegas Golden Knights in the 2017 NHL expansion draft. And while he's playing in Russia, he eventually defects over to North America. Nikita Gusev eventually makes his way over to the Vegas Golden Knights, but yet he never plays a single game. What ended up happening is that in 2018, the Vegas Golden Knights, he was a restricted free agent with them. He did not want to play in that certain type of role. So they trade him to New Jersey. They get a 3rd-round pick. They get a 2nd-round pick for the guy. He signs a 2-year deal with New Jersey. He put up about 40, 45 points in his career with New Jersey. And then he goes to Florida. He has a tryout to Toronto Maple Leafs. He is now back in St. Petersburg in the KHL. So Nikita Gusev was really one of the first examples of a player from the KHL who made his name playing for Moscow, playing for the CSKA Moscow in the KHL, playing as a 17, 18-year-old, goes to Vegas, and then he actually had a really 2-year run with the New Jersey Devils. Now, the bad example of going from the KHL to the NHL was Vadim Shiparov. Now, Vadim was a highly touted prospect in the KHL. Vadim was a guy who played 8 seasons for St. Petersburg in the KHL, and before he joined the Vegas Golden Knights, he had a 76-point, 26-goal season in 2016-2017. He signs a deal, joins the expansion team, Vegas Golden Knights, and he actually ended up being the second person signed by the Vegas Golden Knights in history. The first one was Reed Duke. Now, he only played a handful of games for the Vegas Golden Knights, but there's a reason why he only played a handful of games for Vegas. Vadim Shiparov, he wanted to return to Russia, and he did not want to go to Chicago. The Vegas Golden Knights wanted to send him back down. They wanted to send him down to the Chicago Wolves. He said no. So the Vegas Golden Knights had to terminate his contract. He went back to St. Petersburg. And this past season, he had 24 goals, 67 points, and end up being actually a league MVP for the KHL. So you have two examples there from the Vegas Golden Knights of the KHL working out and the KHL not working out for Vegas. Having Nikita Gusev, it worked out because you got a second round pick and you got a third round pick back for Nikita Gusev. Where Vadim Shiparov, he only played a handful of games for Vegas, ended on a bad note, and he is now dominating the KHL again, really showing his talent that he had in the NHL. So if you're the Vegas Golden Knights, if you are the Henderson Silver Knights, if you're a fan of hockey, what can really be your takeaway from the KHL? What could be a situation that you have to focus on with the Vegas Golden Knights and the KHL? Well, one aspect that I am really going to focus on this show, an aspect I want you to really pay attention on, is the farm system for the Vegas Golden Knights. Because there are not one, not two, not three, but there are four prospects the Vegas Golden Knights have in their system that have experience in the KHL. There is four prospects that they have had experience with and should be a vital part of the Vegas Golden Knights moving forward. The first one is defenseman Danny Myromanoff. Now, Danny Myromanoff, 25-year-old defenseman, signed a recent 2-year deal with the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, what makes Danny Myromanoff such an interesting name is what he did in the KHL. Now, in 2020, 2021, before he joined the Vegas Golden Knights, before he joined the Henderson Silver Knights in the AHL, he had 29 points in 58 games playing for Sochi. All right, SK Sochi. Now, what was fascinating about it was considering his age and considering what he has done, he has also put up stellar numbers playing, for example, Neva St. Petersburg up in the VHL, which is a kind of a minor junior hockey league out there in Russia, putting up 22 points in 43 career games. And considering that he actually played in the ECHL for the Los Angeles Kings before going back to Russia, in his limited amount of time playing in professional hockey, this is his second team that he has been with, but him only being 25 years old could bring value to the Vegas Golden Knights, could bring value to a defense that the Vegas Golden Knights need. So you have Danny Myromanoff. He was the first one that played in the KHL who has experience with the Vegas Golden Knights. A second guy would be Spencer Fu. Now, Spencer Fu spent the last 3 seasons in the KHL. Spencer Fu played for the Red Stars, which is a Chinese-based team in the KHL. Like I said, they have 22 teams in the KHL. Majority of them are from Russia, but not every single one. There is a Chinese-based team called the Red Stars, and Spencer Fu has been on that team. This past season in 2021-2022, Spencer Fu had 19 assists in 48 games, had 14 goals on the year, and actually his performance playing in the KHL is what gave him an off-season contract with the Vegas Golden Knights. This offseason, the Vegas Golden Knights signed Spencer Fu to a 1-year deal worth $750,000. He will be playing for the Henderson Silver Knights to begin the year, but he could be a valuable asset to the Vegas Golden Knights. Him being 28 years old, him playing professional hockey in the KHL is going to bring valuable knowledge to the Vegas Golden Knights. And the last person I have to bring up is Pavel Dorviev. He has a 21-year-old, came from Russia, was drafted by the Vegas Golden Knights in 2019. Is on the last year of his entry level contract with the Vegas Golden Knights. Now Pavel, he's going to be making $925,000 on the year. That's not what we're going to focus on. What we're going to focus on is his 3 seasons playing in the KHL. From 2018, 2019, all the way until 2020, 2021, Pavel Dorviev, he played in the KHL, played for the Metalurg Mentaskrog, and he actually was on the bottom 6, but what was valuable about it is that him being 18, 19, 20 years old, playing professional hockey in Russia, playing against some former NHL players every single night, that brings experience. That brings vital and valuable lessons that you could bring to the NHL. And when you've watched Pavel play last year, yeah, he had 52 points in the AHL playing for Henderson. I got to see him personally live. You could tell that he is going to be a bottom 6 forward in the NHL. Pavel, at 21 years old, already displays some veteran knowledge. He already displays that he understands the game. He knows what he's looking for out there in the NHL. So him having a 52-point season in Henderson last year, he'll probably crack 50 points once again playing for Henderson this year. But only at 21 years old, he is someone you have to pay attention to. So Danny Myromanov came from the KHL. Spencer Fu came from the KHL, and Pavel Dorviev came from the KHL. But one last person that I need to briefly mention, because it'd be disrespectful if I didn't mention that this guy came from the KHL as well. And that is 23-year-old Maxim Mushrev. Now, he is a 23-year-old drafted in 2020 by the Vegas Golden Knights. He is on the last year of his entry-level deal. But what's interesting about him was before he went to America, before he went over to the United States and started playing in the AHL for your Vegas Golden Knights, he had a 40-point season playing for Bars Kazan in the VHL. He had a 23-goal season, 40 points on the year, and the year before that had 21 points in 37 career games. So this is a guy who had experience playing in the KHL, had 2 years playing there, came over to the AHL, and is now a vital part of the Henderson Silver Knights. So you have Mushrev, you have Doriev, you have Fu, and you have Myromanov. These are 4 players who already have experience playing professional hockey, and they're going to be a vital unit to the Vegas Golden Knights organization and to what they're trying to build out here in Las Vegas. So as we're talking about the KHL and how they are building a farm system for the NHL, how the KHL has become a important piece to developing talent in the NHL here on Vegas Hockey Hub. I want to remind everyone watching around the world, subscribe to our YouTube channel at Vegas Hockey Hub. Go to our Facebook page, Vegas Hockey Hub. Hit the like button, turn on notifications so you don't miss any episode of the show. And lastly, go to prconnectionsradio.com and check out all the content we have on there. We have fantastic episodes on PR Connections Radio. We have a show called The Sports Angle on PR Connections Radio. You have We Got the Power. So You Want to Be a ... You have Voices of Humanity. You've got Cozy Stone. You got Aunt Shirley. So many great people on PR Connections Radio. Had to give a shout out to them and give a shout out to Guy Dawson real quick, because if it wasn't for Guy Dawson, PR Connections Radio would not exist. So I just got to give a shout out to you. So we have about 10 minutes left here on the show. So I want to very briefly go over the players who have been drafted from the KHL to the NHL because there are 4 names on here that you will recognize, 4 names that have been, part of the NHL, 4 players who have really been an organization, that have been drafted into the NHL. And the first one is probably the best goalie in the NHL. I mean, this is a guy who, if it wasn't for the Tampa Bay Lightning, if it wasn't for Steve Yzerman, the scouting department, he would not be where he is now. But granted, if you didn't have him, you wouldn't have a dynasty being created in Tampa Bay. Andrei Vasilevsky, he came from Russia. He played in the KHL for 2 seasons before going to the NHL. In 2012, 2013, 2013, 2014, Andrei Vasilevsky played for the Soviet Yuliyev Ufa of the KHL. Now, not only was he a gold medalist in the 2014 Belarus World Championship, not only did he represent them in 2012 in the World Junior Championships for Russia, but Andrei Vasilevsky has literally, and I mean literally, become the best goalie in the NHL. But if he hadn't have played 2 seasons in the KHL, get drafted in the first round by Tampa Bay, then Big Cat wouldn't become the goalie he is now. So I give a lot of credit to Andrei Vasilevsky, a lot of credit to Steve Yzerman, as he was really the first major example of someone being drafted from the KHL and becoming a superstar and becoming one of the best players in the NHL, being from the KHL. The second one was a undrafted free agent. Second one was somebody that most people don't even think about. Someone who just became one of the highest paid players in the NHL today, and that was Artemi Panarin, aka the Bread Man. The Bread Man who played for Chicago, played for Columbus, now plays for the New York Rangers. Artemi Panarin started out in the KHL. As a matter of fact, he was playing for St. Petersburg and put up 26 goals before his defecting over to the United States. Artemi Panarin put up 62 points in 2014-2015 as a 22-year-old. So he signs an entry-level deal with the Chicago Blackhawks, wins Rookie of the Year, helps them win in the playoffs, has an 87-point season in 2018-2019, signs a massive deal to become one of the highest paid players in the NHL today, and just got back off a 95 and 96 point season for the New York Rangers. So Artemi Panarin is a second example of you get someone who's talented, you get someone who understands hockey. They're already playing professionally in Russia. You sign them to the NHL and they become a superstar in that organization. And the last two is Artem Anisimov. Now, Artem Anisimov is actually playing in the KHL right now. So you might be asking your host, Ian Rachiele, well, if Artem Anisimov was a success in the NHL, well, why is he playing in the KHL today? Well, the reason why is because of the fact that he has gone back to Russia. Very similar to what Ilya Kovalchuk did earlier in the episode. After spending an entire decade and a half playing in the NHL, he had a 81-point season in 2008-2009. He was in the Stanley Cup playoffs for a couple of years. A guy who played for Chicago, played for Columbus. He was a very talented player in the NHL. But Artem Anisimov was successful because he was a second-round pick in 2006. Now, keep in mind that back in 2006, drafting a Russian and drafting someone that high in the NHL draft was almost unseen. Outside of Semyon Varlamov that year, he was actually one of the highest drafted people who came from Russia that year. So, having someone like Artem Anisimov, who comes from Russia, who plays in the KHL, that was a massive success for the KHL. And with him now being back is a big plus for the KHL. And the last person that you really have to talk about, and I really have to say real quick that if it wasn't for this player, it wasn't for this guy being in the NHL right now, you could really make an argument that he would not be where he is now if the KHL wasn't where it was. That this guy didn't become one of the best hockey players in the world, that the KHL that you would know today would not exist. So the last player I have to talk about is the Great Eight, is Ovi. OVI. I'm talking about Alex Ovechkin. Now, most people forget that Alex Ovechkin played 4 seasons for the Dynamo Moscow, a team that's currently in the KHL. Alex Ovechkin, who's become one of the greatest hockey players we have ever seen, came over from Russia. He played all those seasons in Russia as a 15, 16, 17-year-old. He goes over to the NHL and puts up 52 goals and 106 points in his first season in the league. He then followed that up with 2 seasons later, having 65 goals and 112 points as a 24-year-old. Alex Ovechkin was a man among boys. Alex Ovechkin was really one of the best players in the NHL, and it wasn't even remotely close. So, Alex Ovechkin, Evgeny Malkin, there was a handful of players who came from the NHL that came from the KHL and are really one of the main reasons why the KHL exists today. Because you want to find that Artemi Panarin. You want to find that Alex Ovechkin. You want to find that Andrei Vasilevsky. Every NHL team is hoping that they can find the next great talent that comes from Russia. They're trying to find that next Pavel Bure, who is going to be a generational talent in the NHL. And lastly, I want to mention before we get towards the end of the show, the NHL, me saying that the KHL is the best farm system that they can have, to me is extremely accurate. And the only reason why I say this positively, the only reason why I can say 1,000% that this is the reason why they are the best farm system for hockey is because just examine the 2022 NHL draft. Just examine all of the Eastern European players who played and got drafted in the first round of the 2022 NHL draft. You had Pavel Minkovov, who was drafted 10th overall by Anaheim in last year's draft. How about the guys from Czech Republic and Slovakia? How about the players from Eastern Europe that got a chance to be drafted high in the NHL draft? Well, that wouldn't have happened in most circumstances, but it did happen because of the explosion of Russian hockey, because of the explosion of all of the young talent that has now entered the NHL thanks to the KHL. So, my final conclusion and my argument here on this show is that yes, the KHL is the best farm system the NHL could have. The KHL is where a young 17, 18, 19-year-old Russian, a young 17, 18-year-old Eastern European hockey player can go to the KHL, play for Moscow, play for St. Petersburg, and can become one of the best hockey players before getting drafted by the NHL. So that was episode 2 of Vegas Hockey Hub. I'm your host, Ian Rachiele. We're going to have a fantastic episode planned out for you tomorrow to come back 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Go to the website, prconnectionsradio.com to find out more. And go to our Facebook page at Vegas Hockey Hub, because I post content on there every single day. So until next time, I'm your host, Ian Rachiele. Have a fantastic hockey season. And just remember, Go Knights, go here on Vegas Hockey Hub.